Here's the definition of our protocol, initializable with CloudKitRecord. Its lone requirement is that a type that implements it can be initialized with a CloudKitRecord.
Fancy.
So the request function that we were talking about takes 3 parameters. One is a CloudKit database. One is a predicate, but it has a default value which doesn't do any filtering. And then we have the answer to the question from the last video. Process is a process, a throwing get an array of self.
Wow. Throwing here is another generic type alias.
Swift doesn't support decorating closure type aliases with the throws keyword yet, so we need to represent the throwing and non-throwing versions of type aliases independently. This is our current solution. We have an enumeration called throwing, and within it we have generic type aliases for get and set. Check out our conclusion video for some deliberation on this, and also some deliberation on the @noescape attribute. We don't feel the need to wrap these two throwing variants in a type called computed, as we did with the non-throwing get and set, because you wouldn't have a throwing set where set is a noun. That wouldn't make any sense. So unlike with computed set, there's nothing to disambiguate here when we say throwing set.
You can see at the top here that we've defined process throwing get, but it can't be used yet due to the bugs still being worked out. You can define it, but if you try to use it, you'll get a segmentation fault when you compile. We would like for this to work, to reuse the signature more easily, without having to match up all the wacky syntax. We don't really like the nested carets, and it just looks like a mess.
So initializable with CloudKitRecord.request is just a way to package up ckdatabase.request for easier use. Let's check that out. It has effectively the same parameters we just went over. Let's open the function up. So in the function body, we perform a CloudKit query. We have the precondition that the name of your requested type is the same as whatever is in the database. This is a way to get the name of a type as a string. So for example, in CloudKit, we have to have a type named cat and a struct or class, we're using a struct called cat. Same for food, they just have to match up. When we open up the closure, we can see what the point of this request function is now. It takes the old way of doing error handling, where you have optional results and an optional error, and instead allows us to use the Swift 2.0 do-try-catch model.
Do-try-catch can only operate synchronously, so we'll have to put the code that uses this into our process closure, which operates asynchronously from the scope that calls this request function. We want variables that can throw errors when you try to get them, but Swift doesn't have those yet. We either process a closure that doesn't actually return results but throws an error, or we process the requested array, which is created using the CK records.